So hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into the TBD live stream here on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara or NetNet Radio out of Tijuana. We have Chuck Suhu here with us. You just heard a performance by his Keone project. How you doing, Chuck?
Good. Thanks for having me. It
Yeah,
was a lot of fun doing it.
yeah. Thanks for performing and being on the show and stuff, dude. It's honestly, I'm really stoked to have you on. Another
Likewise.
fellow like radio broadcaster as well, which is super sick.
Oh yeah, I liked how we bonded over our stories
I
working
know.
in radio.
Yeah, we were talking briefly before the interview, and yeah, we bonded over our radio shows, and I guess the stress of working at a you know freeform community station.
You're always gonna have a story out of it.
Exactly, dude. So I guess how have you been holding up during the like quarantine? What have you been up to? How have you adapted, like musician wise? Like, how do you like virtual gigs? Every artist I have usually has mixed responses.
Do most of them hate the virtual gigs, I guess, or
Dude, so I mean it's always like mixed, you know? Like I had so when I first started doing this, and I was doing it like via Zoom or whatever, one of the main complaints that I had from people is like, dude, I feel like I'm just playing into a void, which like from I guess what I took away is that they're just unmotivated to do it because it's like there's
oh,
nobody giving them feedback, like, you know.
I
So
mean, I personally enjoy it because I don't really do too many shows unless I'm opening up for a friend or someone asks me to perform.
yeah,
And so, just performing. I usually, because like I make music in my bedroom, and so I don't really have a window. I play in front of like a white wall and like popcorn ceiling, and so I
yeah,
have some like posters and stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm just playing with no like scenery or nothing like environmentally
yeah. You're kind of
aesthetically
used to it.
pleasing. So I'm kind of, yeah, I'm used to it. So when you ask, I'm like, yeah, man, it's not a big deal. So I've done a few like streaming performances, and
Mhm.
I mean they're always cool because I guess it's kind of laid back because there's no one watching you. So and I'm in the comfort of my own home. So I'm like, oh, this is great. And then next thing you know, like, oh man, it's been 30 minutes. That
I
was
know.
fun.
That's funny. So, I guess before we get like full on into like the rest of the interview, I just want to make sure I bring this up too. I try to encourage our listeners to get involved in their community in some capacity as much as possible. And I've been asking artists to choose an organization from their community that they feel is like important for our listeners to know about. And you told me about Climate Resolve. What can you tell me about them and like the work they do?
Yeah, I thought it was like a great organization to talk about because their mission is to come up with ideas to basically slow down climate change. I mean, obviously over the summer it was crazy heat
Oh, for sure.
waves
Yeah.
after one after
Mhm.
another, man. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the one thing that sucks about, living in Los Angeles too is like they'll cut the power out, especially in like low income housing, like
Oh,
neighborhoods and stuff. And so like, obviously they're not gonna like cut power in Beverly Hills,
yeah.
but they'll cut in like in Koreatown or like anywhere like in East LA. So it sucks too because like everyone's using like their AC because it's so hot, and then
Mhm.
you know, and so they focus on that, and they have like a lot of cool projects to like cool down like the neighborhoods and provide better systems for public transportation. Me personally, I don't drive a car in like 7 years now, I think, but um, except for like one time, like when we did this thing at Bonnaroo with Dell Lab. But
Yeah.
besides that, yeah, I'd mostly like ride a bike or take the bus or take the metro. So
Yeah.
it'd be a really great way to come up with a better way to like reduce like greenhouse gas
Yeah.
and like
Emissions. Really.
pollution. So
That's amazing. So, do you know how like our listeners can get involved with that? Like, did they just check the website or?
yeah, I think you can just check the website. There's like a donation page, and just like feel free to reach out, and or you can even volunteer. Even
Oh yeah,
it's another way to help out.
that's tight. Um, and I'm sure if there's any of our Santa Barbara listeners who feel like, is it mostly like an LA based organization?
I would say so. Just like whole
Okay.
LA County in general.
Yeah. Well, if there's any of our listeners in Santa Barbara that feel like they want to get involved, I'd say check that out. Maybe you can make some trips down to LA to contribute or some way. I know climate change has for sure been affecting people in Santa Barbara. as of recent with like the massive fires and like the power shutoffs and stuff. Um, so something that hits close to home,
Yeah,
I guess,
man.
for
The
everybody.
fires every year, it's crazy.
Oh,
Do
every
you
year, dude.
I
Um,
just remember, do you remember that one video like maybe 2 years ago? I think it was in Ventura, and it looked like Mordor from like Lord of the Rings. Like
oh yeah,
the
dude, yes, yeah. That was honestly one of the most insane periods ever. Like I remember that was during like, a finals period, finals term or whatever,
oh geez.
for like school, and like people are trying to get school canceled. People are just dipping without even like contacting the professors. Like, yeah, I'm out. And then I remember too, as a result of the fire, um like all the ground, all like the soil and stuff was loose up in the hills,
Oh,
so when we got that massive like January rain, it flooded the entire like highway, and like everybody
oh
was blocked
man.
from leaving Santa Barbara for like 2 weeks. But yeah, honestly crazy. So yeah, Climate Resolve, I know they're doing good work, and it hits close to home to everybody. So if you're looking for a cool thing to get involved in LA, check out Climate Resolve. So you're Los Angeles based, right?
Yes, but I'm originally from Northern Virginia, uh, Alexandria, Virginia, to be specific.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's sick though. So I guess like,
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm from like California and stuff, but yeah, but I've been here for like almost 8 years now, I think.
oh, so it's still fairly recent, I would say. You're not like a lifer
Yeah,
for sure yet, but so I guess like growing up, I feel like there wasn't much going on in terms of like DIY music, from the little like suburb outside of LA where I'm from. But other than that, what a few people were doing later on, there wasn't much. So I like to ask this question because it varies so much by like geographic region. But like, what's the scene like in LA? How did you get involved and how did you navigate it? I know LA has like a ton of like sub music scenes, and I've only
yeah,
personally tapped
definitely.
into like a few. But yeah, how has this influenced you? Like, what's it like? Has this influenced your creativity in any way?
I would say just also living in the suburbs of like Northern Virginia, just like outside of DC, just trying to get exposed to like new music and
Yeah.
inspiration. It, definitely the internet really helped for sure. Like
Mhm.
that's how I knew about like the Los Angeles scene. Like you hear about the smell,
Oh, for sure.
low end theory.
Yeah.
I heard about Dell Lab from just their secondhand sure shot documentary they
Mm,
uploaded like years ago, and I tell Ollie and Mark that too, and they're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, man, that really inspired me, man. Like, thank you." I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh," and they hear stories about how they shot like behind the scenes like stories on that documentary alone. So I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh wow, that's crazy." So
That's sick. So,
oh yeah.
oh, I was gonna say, were you like playing shows or anything in Virginia when, or did
Yeah, well, I started off playing like in a punk band
okay.
because yeah, that's also influential in DC. Like when you say like DIY and like the reminiscence of like Discord records is still there and like hardcore music, and so that exposed me a lot to DIY music, just like from a friend in high school. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this music exists. Whoa, like listen to like Fugazi and at one point in my life, I after college, I worked for Cynthia Conley at this like arts and cultural center in
Oh,
Roswell,
really?
Virginia. Yeah, so I got starstruck first. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's the lady who made the minor threat sheet.
Yeah.
After a while, like it rubs it like it goes away, but it was just it's interesting to like time to work, like
Yeah.
or just like everything's connected over there and.
Mhm.
Yeah, but like playing show wise, yeah, I played in punk bands and then I played in a wacky synth band.
What were your bands called? So you said you're in a
Yeah, it
punk.
was like
Oh wait, go ahead. Sorry.
well, the punk band was called Fooey with like a exclamation mark
Okay.
Phooey, and it was like it sounded like I guess like the Descendants,
Okay, that's sick.
so it was pretty fun. And then I played in a wacky synth band where I played drums called like Funland Super Quest.
Yeah,
And like during shows I would like break down my drum set and then we start like kind of like a drum circle in the crowd
that's so
and then
sick.
give everybody drumsticks and so they just like bang on it during like this one song, so it was fun.
That sounds actually really fun. Like that just sounds like what you would expect from like a DIY type, venue or band or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely it was fun. Like just playing a lot of house shows, basements.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know what like at one point I think we played in Virginia. It was like a some weird like storage space unit. I've definitely
Oh,
it was
really?
like next to a golf course, sorry. And we played one there, and um the band played at this place called Cat Mansion in Richmond, Virginia. And
Yeah.
so like it was like this noise festival, but we didn't play noise music.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, there's no drumming allowed. And so my bandmate gave me like his Legends of Zelda game on his laptop and
Uh,
had a controller. And so while they were like making noise on their synthesizers, I would just play Zelda with the synth sounds and stuff.
uh,
And everyone's like getting into like, whoa, this is sick.
dude,
Do you guys
before
have
like,
demos of this? And I'm like,
yeah,
no.
like this is revolutionary, and you're like, dude, we pulled this out of our ass like
Yeah,
far before
basically.
or something.
And the crazy part too was like after like the lineup, like after the main band played in the festival in this like giant house,
Yeah.
they I don't know, I guess they decided they're like, hey, we're gonna do like this like noise, we're gonna bang some sounds into like in like in the railways and stuff. So we went down like through this forest and
Yeah.
go down like this creek,
Uh-huh.
and then we were just like playing noise and stuff. There was like cymbals and like tubas and all these instruments and stuff. I was like, whoa. At one point, like the we were actually on tour, and like the person that we were with like just randomly took their clothes off and started playing the saxophone. And then next day we asked them like, Dylan, did you were you naked yesterday? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah,
That honestly sounds like a good time. What was your synth band's name again?
it was Funland Super Quest.
Funland Superquest. So can you find that on Bandcamp still? Did you guys have anything up?
I don't even think so. We had a couple demos, but we never released anything like official. It was just mostly like a live performance thing, which was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
that's so tight. So you guys had a little cult following back there.
It was cool. It was cool.
That's tight, dude. Um, so I guess jumping into your project, what can you tell me about Keone? So like give us the big picture, bring us back to your humble beginnings.
Yeah. So it started like I guess towards the end of that band, Funland Super Quest. I think it was at the point when like all of us were just like got interested in like doing our own thing, and I was like heavily inspired by like Teebs and Gold Panda
Uh-huh.
and the whole low end stuff. I was like, oh, what, you could do that on a computer? I saw a performance of like No Such Thing on the like MPD 32 and
Yeah,
making all these crazy sounds on his laptop. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta figure it out. And so I went through like this was probably like right after college, and
yeah.
so um I saw that and I was like, oh my God. So I was just, a friend got me a copy of Ableton and just zoned out for a while, just experimenting, making sounds and, just trying to emulate like a bad version of Gold Panda.
Dude, that's sick actually though.
Yeah. It's but yeah, eventually like yeah, it was like I guess like the beginning of Keone was more of like electronic,
Yeah.
more beat driven sound, and then I think like I like reached out to Inner Islands just because like in the previous band I played in like Funland, we played with this band called Here Hums, and
Hmm.
like they released their tape. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to reach out to some labels or whatever. So I
Yeah,
reached
see if
out
we
and
can
gave
put
them
stuff
this
out.
yeah, I what did I do? Oh, I think in the email I reached out to Braden J, who like at the time owned Inner Islands before, like, and then Sean took over it. But I reached out just saying like the description of like my music, and I used like several Zelda references.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I love you know, was it like link to like forest?" I just like I think I just referenced like forest music or whatever,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh, this is cool. Yeah, let's do something." And so that like really inspired me like after I like moved here to Los Angeles and just met a lot of people like just like all the music they make was like very inspiring, and then eventually I don't even know. I guess it was like this year where I started more showing more ambient sounds.
Yeah. Oh, so I've
So
I've noticed like your stuff like in the past was a little more like dancey and stuff. So I guess like is that your like low end your low end
yeah, yeah.
coming out?
Anyway, that's my Adult Swim era.
Yeah. So were you in LA, I guess, at the point when like low end was still doing stuff?
Um, yeah. I mean, I saw a few shows. Oh, like that definitely like inspired me to like move here. I like came
Okay.
to visit. I think it was like 2012, 2011, 2010. And I was like here for like a week or two, and just I just got lost in the city. And at the time, I didn't have like an iPhone. I had like this crappy Droid that didn't help me with Google Maps, and so I also would take the bus
Yeah.
all over, and I just got lost. But everyone was like so nice.
Yeah.
They're like- I was like, oh hey, I'm trying to get to where was I think I was trying to get to like a museum, and I went took the wrong bus, but everyone was like cheering for me to like, no man, two stops, just go like just get off here and then take the next bus.
That's so funny.
They're like, you got it, man. I'm like, oh thanks, man. Everyone's so nice. And I, eventually found it after like 3 hours of like commuting. But it was cool. That same day I got lost and I found a record surplus in Santa Monica.
Oh, that's sick.
I was like, whoa, what is this record store? And they had like a lot of cool stuff. And I bought a bunch of stuff, and the guy, I was just mostly like used records, and he just looked at it, like, yeah, it's like 20 bucks. I'm like, great. So I just grabbed a handful of records and traveled back to the bus to my friend's place in Echo Park. So
That's tight.
what
So
a day experience.
is that like back when you like visited LA at that point?
Yeah,
Were you like
it was like right after college. I
okay,
was still
so
playing in the band and just like visited just for fun.
yeah.
And then a few years later, I moved here, and yeah, it was crazy.
And then it was all
But
history. You ended up staying. Yeah, that's tight.
yeah, still here. But yeah, the low end theory, like I went to a few shows. It was cool. I mean, yeah, it was great.
That's cool.
Fun memories. But
I,
I didn't see all the cool stuff they were doing with like Erica Badu did like a DJ set, or like Tom York. I
dude,
didn't see all that. I wish I was there though.
they used to do some crazy stuff, but I feel like I was still like in high school and like even I was honestly pretty young when like low end was like at its peak. But I remember when I was in community college, one of my friends that I had met there was super into like low end, and wanted to go to like their final like party or something like that. They were having like
Oh
one
wow.
final party. I believe that was like 2016 or something. And that was like their last show ever. And he was like, dude, we gotta go. And I don't think I ended up going because I had like some homework or something to do. But
Oh
yeah,
man.
that was my only experience with low end. But I know it was like super influential for like a lot of people and like seemed like a lot of fun.
Oh man. Oh, sorry. You like remind me of like why I said low end theory. That like when I was visiting, like my last day, it was like day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
And there was like a tweet from Flying Lotus was like, "Hey, I'm gonna play Low End Theory, surprise!" I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta go!" And so me and my friend went, and it was definitely like a inspirational,
yeah.
just like a life changing experience. And then
Dude,
after he
Ghost.
played, he like,
Yeah, you saw Philo there. That's insane.
yeah, this was like right after I think it was like Cosmogramma came out,
Yeah.
and he just did this set. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is sick!" And after he was done, like I was leaving, and he was like, I just like shook his hand. I was like, "Thank you," and he was like, "Cool, man." Just like walked away.
Dude, that's so sick, dude. That's so tight. Yeah, I feel like I always associate low end theory for sure with Philo for whatever reason. And I think it was probably just because you would do stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so anyways, this question is actually from my friend Maddie, who has a show at KCSB and actually NetNet now with me. Um, so Maddie talked to Farbad, Kokabi, and Bobby Power about the recent Geographic North comp.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Yeah, apparently they contact artists or every artist to be featured on the comp months ahead of time, asking if they would like to contribute a piece of music relating to autumn. Um, and Maddie says that your track specifically reminds them of drifting through LA freeways. Um, they're curious what your approach actually,
Really?
yeah, they're curious what your approach actually was to the Geographic North comp in making a track specifically for autumn.
Oh man, I mean, just like the Keone like project itself, it's inspired by like elephants in autumn. living back in Virginia, like early autumn was like my favorite time of the season. Just like
Yeah.
it's the smell and like finally cool again after like a giant like heat wave. It's like
Yeah.
muggy in the summer and humid, and so when you like the autumn hits, you're like, man, this is that and like spring is like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And so that's always like resonated with the project, and that's pretty cool that they said they was like drifting in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I guess
So
Maddie's from Escondido, so I assume it's probably just like the passing through LA type deal, you know? So
yeah, yeah, well, if Farbod and Bobby hears this, man, thank you so much for letting me be on the comp. I told them like on the message, like, oh, I'm like, man, thank you, and they're like, oh man, it's cool.
they're like, no, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, they're really fun guys. So yeah, thank you so much.
That's cool. So I guess did this like what experiences went into I guess like your song in the Geographic North comp or like in general what are what experiences go into your music and does this differ from your approach like from comp to comp like uh did the Geographic North track differ from like April's Doom Trip Doom Mix comp?
Oh man, I don't think it was like I was like making anything specific. It was just
Yeah.
more like uh, when I'm making music, it almost feels like it's a meditative thing, just a
Yeah.
way to like get away from everything, um, and just like zone out for a couple hours, just
Yeah.
like listening to like textures and sounds. And so originally, I sent Geographic North like 5 tracks,
Yeah.
and I just like gave them like Halloween names. I was like, "Hey, Farvad, here you go. Feel free to choose whatever you want." And they're like, "Oh, we like Dream World a lot." I'm like, "Oh, great. I think that's like my favorite one too." So,
Hell yeah.
but the Doom Trip one, oh man, I think Zach. Oh yeah, shouts out to Zach too if you're hearing this. Thank you so much for letting me be on the compilation as well. That's really sick. Um, man, what was? Yeah, he just like asked me. I think it was like back in like last year around November. It was
Oh
like towards
really?
the tail end. It was like yeah, it was like a while ago. And he just like, hey man, I think you'd be great for the next Doom com. I was like, what, really? And he gave me a few names that were on there. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
Jimmy's gonna be on there, sick. And then I was at Dell Lab and Jimmy was like just swinging by one day. He was like, oh, I heard you're gonna be on the Doom Trim com. I'm like, how'd you hear about that? And so it was really cool to be like same lineup with him.
Oh for sure,
Um,
that's sick.
but
Fire
yeah, like the
was on that comp too.
exactly. And like I guess the Doom Trip cut was like towards the tail end of more like electronic based
Yeah.
beat driven sounds, and I gave him like one of the better ones. I'm like, oh, here we go. He was like, oh, this is great.
That's so
So
sick. So I guess the way you like come up with your music, it's kind of just like a general process, I guess, for when you're approaching all tracks. Is that kind of how it goes? Like,
I guess in a way it all revolves around like a loop. I mean,
mm,
towards like more beat driven stuff was like more sampled bass, and
yeah,
so I would try to make rules for myself too, like oh vinyl only, just like hear the samples, and then I would like just play around, and then when I get a loop going, like oh this is good, and then it would like layer on top of that. But recently it's more like a jam,
hmm,
just like inspirations from like friends, and I'm like how do you it's just like one like one wave file. They're like yeah, just like a jam like through the computer, and just like and so for a while it took me a long time to like I guess process that.
hmm,
And then, I since the pandemic started, I kind of like just like collected some gear, just like borrowing from friends.
hmm,
And so I'm like, oh, this is fun to jam out. And so I started to just hit the record button and like jam out on a couple like equipment. Like like my friend let me borrow like the Electron Digitag.
hmm,
I'm like, oh, this is sick. And I had an organelle from last year, and so I put those two together, and I got like a Norn shield. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And so I would record that, and then I still heavily edit on Ableton a lot,
hmm,
and so that's also a fun process too, to just like sit down and just like edit your sounds together.
yeah,
So that's kind of how the QAing process is.
that's sick. So I guess flowing into another question that I guess Maddie had, I feel like this is a good time to throw it in. But they want to know the gear that you use.
Oh man, like how I make like Like which time period? Like
I
right, like
guess
the more recent sounds or more like old Keone sounds?
um I guess whichever you want to start with. I mean, I'm down to hear both. I know they're probably different, right?
Yeah, oh
Or
yeah,
just
like
like
in a
general
way,
consensus.
yeah.
You don't have to go super in depth, but
I think like well, the original like starting off was everything goes through Ableton.
okay.
So yeah, I guess in college I learned how to video edit and I kind of applied it to like sound editing too.
Hmm.
So like learning the short keys and stuff from like Final Cut and applied to like Ableton. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you can do this and just like just messing around with effects. Yeah, and then slowly I started. Yeah, then I used like a SP404 to like perform and capture sounds as well, any effects. And then I don't know, like I guess when I just started making more ambient sounds
Yeah.
is when I started to collect more. Like I use the Organelle, the Norns,
Okay.
and the Digitact, and then like the performance we did. I recently acquired a Digitone,
Mm.
so I'm like, oh, this would be great. So I used that, and I think that's it for gear. We're pretty minimal person.
Hey, but
No effect pedals.
dude, that's sick though, dude. Like, I feel like some of the ambient stuff you're making is like some of like the more, I guess, like beautiful stuff I've been hearing, I
Oh,
guess,
thanks, man.
out of like the last year. Yeah, dude. So
Thank you.
I feel like that's really sick that you're doing with like such little stuff, you know. I feel like that's kind of inspiring. And you know, it's like anybody could like make sick ass sounds with like little equipment, you know?
Yeah, it's just more like, these are just tools
Yeah.
for you to create your sounds and stuff. Also, I think my partner would not allow me to have like a command center of
Yeah.
gear. So, I mean, I personally don't want to. I'm like a pretty minimal person. Like when I travel, I just bring my backpack.
Yeah. So, I guess what can you tell me about your most recent split with channelers on the Never Content label?
Yeah, that was like the most casual, I guess, like tape release
Yeah.
I've ever done. I'm pretty sure they're into, but yeah, that was like in the works like over a year and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I like when I did the Atlantic Rhythms release,
Mm,
I think I was like sending out to like a few other like labels too, and I like shared it with Noah. We're just like friends. I
yeah.
was like, hey man, I made some new stuff, check it out. And I think he like finally reached out like after months and was like, oh hey man, I was like cleaning and like I was like listening to your music. What if if you're interested, I'd be down to release like something for you. I'm like, oh thanks, Noah.
Yeah.
And then I think like the idea came like, oh, you know what? It'd be cool if you and Sean did something. I'm like, yeah, I was like, I love Sean. So,
Yeah.
and I think, he's the closest person to like the project or like knowing, he's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, no other person I would do a split with. And so, yeah, that was the fun. Yeah, it took a year and a half because it was mostly, I think, yeah, we were just casual about it. Like, oh, how about this? How about that? And
Yeah.
we like connected all through like emails and Sean did like the artwork and the mastering. Um, and then Noah did like, and he also did layout too. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, Noah like just processed everything together. And I think we just kept delaying because we had a few other releases
Hmm.
for that. And then
Yeah.
eventually we are like, oh, here you go. Here it is.
That's sick. So I guess how did the little amethyst stone come about?
Oh man, that's all Noah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like very careful in like his packaging.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you check out like any of the Never Content releases, like all the tape releases have like a stone, some type of flower, a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
get your
That's
money's worth when you like pay for it.
oh, for sure,
Hold
dude.
on, let me
Yeah.
see if I can. I have the tape next to me. I'll
I
show
actually
you like.
have actually have my little stone right here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's I don't have it.
Oh, really?
He didn't give me one.
That's funny. That's okay. Um, that's cool though. I actually have the Geographic North comp right here. It doesn't fit in my cassette storage, so I kind of just
Oh
grab my old.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got my copy last week. I was like, oh, this is
Oh,
great. I'm
that's
gonna
sick.
cherish this forever.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. The packaging on it is really cool. Actually, I feel like I've never had a cassette.
Yeah, no, they do a great like I've like well, I knew about Geographic North before I lived in Los Angeles
Yeah.
um and then, when I got involved with Dell Lab, I would just like know about them more and more. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
man, like for Bod, your graphic design is so sick.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
dude, they're honestly killing it. I feel
they
like they're
are.
doing an amazing job with that label.
They do.
And Yeah, it's honestly crazy too because they were just college radio heads as well. Did you know that?
I think I did.
Dude,
I
yeah,
just I've heard the stories when I met Furbad and Farzad. Um, they were telling me stories about like Dell Lab's director Ale, like he was on tour with his
yeah.
band, and like they would host him in a show and like a house show, and like their stories. I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. It was like so long ago, and
Dude, yeah, it's
still
honestly
was.
wild.
So
I would have had like no idea, but like from Maddie's interview, I don't want to spoil it because Maddie's like writing some. Do you know like our indie heads on Reddit?
no, I don't.
Okay, it's like this big like I guess like indie forum online, and Maddie's doing this like big interview with Geographic North for indie heads. But yeah, it's just interesting how like they were telling me about it, and I guess like Geographic North just started with a couple friends using their connections that they met through radio to start their label and stuff. I don't know. I just think it's insane. Yeah,
No, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, same. I feel like radio is a great. It's like a hub for community,
it for
and
sure
so
is.
you just like connect with everyone, like just sharing cool music, and so yeah. I mean, just like we're doing right now, we're just like through radio and
I know exactly
like
right.
connecting that way. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Um, so I guess tell me about your relationships with oh, what is it? Atlantic Rhythms and then also Inner Islands as well.
Oh man. Well, Atlantic Rim is just from my like days living in Northern Virginia. Uh, Sean, he had actually two labels. Yeah, Sean and Sean, but Sean Peoples. Yeah, he had another label called Socket Records, and it was
Oh,
very like post-punk music. Like there was bands like Building and Humes and Laughing Man.
mm.
Well, Laughing Man, well that's how I knew about Luke Stewart.
Oh, really? What
Yeah, like we
does
did a show together, like at George Mason. This was when I was still in college, and
Oh, really?
yeah, when we like interviewed him on Contact Wave, I was like, "Oh man, that's how I knew about you." And he was like, "What? You're from here?" So it was a cool way to connect. And
Dude, that's insane actually. Wow. I didn't actually think there was a connection that way. That's so crazy.
yeah, I mean, like the DC, Northern Virginia, Maryland scene's like pretty small, but yeah, I was like inspired by that, and so I think what was the story? I think like, oh yeah, I had like Peter Tran, who goes by Curved Light, came to town,
Mm,
and he played at beta level, and like he crashed in my spot, and we were just like talking about labels and stuff, and
yeah.
I saw that he released stuff on Atlantic Rhythm. I was like, oh man, who's this label? I saw like their covers, and they were like, oh, this is really cool. I was like read about them and like their DC label,
Yeah.
and so I reached out, and then I think like I don't even know, maybe a couple hours later or maybe a day or so, like Sean wrote back, was like, hey man, I love your stuff. That's cool that you're from like the area and
Yeah.
whatnot, and so yeah, that's how I like knew about the Atlantic Rhythms, and so
Wait, so
but
Sean from Oh, so this is a different Sean than the Sean from
yeah,
Inner
oh,
Islands.
yeah, so this is Sean Peoples who
Oh,
runs
Sean Peoples.
Atlantic
Okay.
Rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, and like yeah, the releases are great. Like they released Artosari from like Lounge Lizards and
Oh,
Janelle
really?
Eklund. Yeah, like Blacksmiths,
Yeah.
all of it's great stuff. Yeah, all the releases are just really good.
Oh, dude, Atlantic Rhythms is an amazing label, and I feel like I just jumped into them actually pretty recently. So,
Yeah, this it's a good dive, and they just released my friend Dash Lewis and Jeff Ziegler, like their release, and
oh,
so
really?
yeah, it's really good. I think it's like from a jam, but yeah, last year I went back home to visit for the holidays, and we did a show, and Gardner played, and I played with Amy Reed, and so it
Oh,
was a
wow.
lot of fun. Yeah, it was cool. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah,
So
dude.
it was fun. It was like the first time I actually met Sean in person, even though I've seen him like at shows
Yeah,
just back in the day. But it was cool to like to connect after just like talking through the internet, and
dude,
just
that's so amazing, actually.
yeah, and just like just like the album art too for the Forest record was like came out really well. They gave me like three versions of it. I'm like, oh, this is the one.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I love the aesthetic of that label. Like how it's just all similar. It's just so cool. Like I'm just, how do you come up with so many variations of like the same thing and just keep it sick, you know?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to say like, but they just like asked me like, what inspired the record, and then like think of like a few color palettes. And so I sent him a photo of Babar the elephant,
Oh, that's tight.
and then he gave me a few things. I was like, oh yeah, this is it.
Dude, that's cool. When I used to live in a co-op actually, and we had a big poster of Babar hanging up in the co-op. That's
That's
funny.
sick. That's Babar's a legend.
Honestly, dude, that's so cool. So, what can you tell me about Inner Islands?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's how it all like I guess just came together was just through Inner Islands and
Yeah,
just like reaching out to Braden, and then he was like, "Yo, you seem cool. Let's do a release." And so just been like, that's how I knew about Sean Conrad when he took
yeah.
over. And every time he comes visit, because he's originally from Los Angeles. I don't know if anyone knows that,
Who's
but
Sean Conrad? Or
yeah, he's
yeah,
I mean he's an Oakland guy, but originally he's from like Los Angeles, so he'll come
yeah.
visit his parents, and so every time he visits, like like, oh, we should hang out, and yeah, we connect, and so he does like all my mastering,
Oh, that's sick.
well,
I see
except
that on like
except
the
for
left.
like the compilations or whatever, but
Yeah,
he definitely like all the releases like from well, I can't say all of it. Like the elephant one was made by Hayes Holiday, and then On Real Time was by my friend Ilya.
yeah.
But like the past few years is like definitely through Sean.
That's sick.
Yeah. And yeah, just like they definitely like influenced me the most, I would say. Just like meeting a lot of different other like label mates and just like hearing their music. And I think yeah, they're definitely the one of the main reasons why I got into ambient music and Dub Lab too. But
Yeah, yeah.
so
That's super cool, dude. That's crazy. I didn't know that Sean Conrad also ran Inner Islands as well. That's interesting.
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. He like took over probably maybe a few years after it started, and Brain was like, Sean, you could take over. And he does a really great job. All the releases, like the recent one with uh Lunaria and Inner Travels, like their side project, like their
yeah.
collaborative. It's exciting. Yeah, definitely check it out off Inner Islands Bandcamp. I'm excited. Did I get the tape? I'm pretty sure I bought it. Maybe I got the digital, but
That's with Lunaria, right? You said Lunaria.
yeah,
Yeah, Lunaria. Is it under the same name Lunaria on the Inner Islands, or is it like a side project thing you said, or?
it's like a side project thing. Hold
Oh,
up, I have my Bandcamp
okay, because I know
pulled up.
Lunaria. I think I know Lunaria from what's it called? This like tape label called Geology Records or something. Have you
Oh
heard?
yeah, great label.
Yeah, that's a great label, and
It's
I
a
think I've
really good
played
label.
Lunaria on the show before. But yeah, amazing stuff. I'll have to
I mean,
check it
oh
out.
yeah. So their project's called Path of the Sun.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know that that was Lunaria. That's crazy.
Hold on, let me confirm this. I'm pretty sure it's Daniel's label. Like he does, yeah, Daniel and Steve Targo.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
dude.
Lunaria and Inner
Hey,
Travels. Yeah, did you ever listen to Inner Travels?
I don't think I've listened to that one.
Oh man, you gotta listen to Steve Targo stuff. He is incredible. I think he writes like movie reviews for a newspaper.
Oh,
He lives
really?
in Wisconsin, and with his like he's married and has a child, but he like his music is sick. You should definitely check it out.
It's called Inner Travels.
Inner Travels. And
Wow, that's
I
amazing. I'm
remember,
writing
yeah, I
that
remember
down.
Sean was telling me, he's like, oh, I'm working with this guy named Inner Travels, and you know, him being on Inner Islands would be like a trip, having similar names. And I'm
Yeah,
like, oh man, it's perfect. The music he plays is so good. I play a lot of his tracks on Dub Lab, so
dude, that's amazing.
yeah, it's great. He's a cool guy. So Steve, if you're listening to this, keep making amazing music.
Okay, so I have one more question from Maddie, actually. Maddie loves tapes and wants your thoughts on tape labels.
I mean, I think they're great. I love it. It's like it's a nice like physical just like own like I collect a lot of records too, so like
Yeah,
cassettes just go hand in hand.
yeah.
But
I
I
personally, oh, go
uh,
ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I personally love collecting cassettes, I guess just because they're cheaper than records,
Oh yeah.
And like records can easily just I can just shell out so much money. And like you get like five records or something for like $100, whereas like cassettes are usually around like $5, and you can just have you get so much more.
Yeah, and I the one thing I love about cassettes is that like, they'll eventually like deteriorate.
Yes, dude. I actually
So
have a crazy cassette I just bought. Are you familiar with like the Flenser at all? This is like okay, so it's sort of like a dark like metal label.
Oh,
Not
okay,
always like
yeah.
metal, but like dark and stuff. Do you know who Drouse is? That artist Drouse?
No.
You know Amulets?
Yeah, I've heard
Okay,
of
so
amulets.
Amulets just got signed to the Flenser actually. So
Oh,
it's this
nice.
dark like label, and they do all kinds of like genres and stuff. But anyways, this dude Planning for Burial is on that label, and Tom from that project started this like he has this like cult record with a cult following called like Below the House, I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
And yeah, so like one of his projects that he did on his own label called like Glowing Window or whatever is like the Tape Deterioration series. So he just,
Whoa.
like has like the master tape for like Below the House, and he just like messes the thing up like really bad, and then he like
Whoa.
records it to cassettes and like sends out the cassettes. And I think the version that I bought was like version 3. So it's just like super deteriorated and like warbly and just sounds
Whoa.
so
How
sick.
many was there like in a like a limited edition like of like 30 or something?
Oh yeah, it's like super limited, like just on like his own label. Like the Flenser does all of like the proper releases, and then Tom was just like, I'm gonna mess this up and just do limited runs. And
Man,
like
that's cool.
I think he's gonna keep doing it until like the tape just can't be dubbed anymore. But it's interesting because he's like, yeah, like, I was just on tour and I just leave the tape, all over like the dashboard of the van, and like it gets
Whoa.
stepped on and like tore, and then I would splice it. And yeah, interesting,
It's
dude.
yeah, no, I love tapes. Yeah, it's because when if you play like the tape so long, yeah, eventually like it deteriorates and then you get a weird like you it's almost like new because it's like, oh, I hear this slow down version,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's
so
super cool. Yeah. I love that. I don't know, tape just sounds amazing. It's funny because I remember when I told my dad that I was like collecting cassettes or whatever. He's like, why? They get so messed up so fast. And I'm like, that's part of the things that I like about it. It's just sick, you know?
it's great. Yeah. Hey, man, I need to go back home and find my dad's Pyramids tape.
Oh hell yeah.
The first one, that's like I wish someone like reissued that, but I'm sure the copyright or the licensing must cost like an arm and a leg.
Oh, for sure, right?
Yeah, I have a CD of it, but like I would love to find like the cassette version
Not the
of
same,
that.
dude, not the same as a cassette.
Yeah, my dad would like play that tape and the Carlos Santana Smooth record or whatever. He played
Oh,
that a lot.
really?
Yeah.
That's sick.
What's that record called? Supernatural or something?
Yeah, I think so. That's yeah, classic right there.
Yeah. It's I'm like, man, I was like that's my fond memories.
Yeah, that's funny. So, just because I gotta ask, because I've seen this in like the liner notes of a few of your older records, and you've mentioned it a couple times. Um, are elephants your favorite animal?
Oh, totally. That's my spirit animal.
Hell yeah, that's sick.
Hence,
So
hence the
what?
Babar reference.
Yeah, yeah, the Babar reference, and then I've seen like a few of your records where you're just like, yeah, this was inspired by like elephant trunks and stuff.
Yeah, totally. I'm surprised at how many song titles or song names like come up with like they're like elephant related.
That's so funny.
So
So,
it's
I guess like where did the liking for elephants come from?
oh man, I don't even know. I
They're
think
just sick,
like
I guess.
it's just like it's just like when you like look at something, you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah,
Like same thing with like the Keone name. I like saw it on like just like looking through online. I'm like, yeah, that's what trees, demons, monsters. Oh, perfect. Let's do it.
yeah, you're like, there it is. That just has a nice ring to it. Yeah, that's sick though, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like looking at like just like a beautiful, just like an artwork or whatever, and just look at an elephant. You're like, man, they're so graceful
Yeah,
and like they look, they're chill and they don't, yeah, they're just I don't know, just like something about them. I can like look at an elephant all day, just or I watch a lot of like elephant documentaries or
that's
whatever,
so
and
cool.
I'm like, oh man. So, but this summer, like with all the ambient stuff, I was watching a lot of ocean documentaries.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I, I would watch a lot of the Jacques Cousteau documentaries too
Yeah.
on YouTube, just like put in the background and while I make music, and so that kind of resonated with like I guess a lot of the underwater sounds I've been making or themes.
Yeah. That's actually crazy that you mentioned like the underwater sound, because I was actually telling my girlfriend too that I feel like your music recently has like this sort of like warbly, like, either sounds like you're underwater or like, yeah, that's crazy. That's so interesting that you're saying that ocean documentaries kind of like inspired that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever hear like, if you're at like a pool party or or like at the water park or something, it's like music blasting, and then you do like a cannonball into like the pool, and
Yeah,
then you just like you can't hear anything, but then you can kind of hear like people talk or whatever.
yeah, exactly. That like muffled sound.
Yeah, I love it. I was just like, that's one of my favorite sounds. Just like that high ends just get cut off, and you just hear like the lows. You're like, man, it sounds so good.
I
So
was
that's all I
actually
was trying to emulate.
Yeah, that's sick. I was actually gonna say too, because I guess we were talking about cassettes as well, but I was also telling my girlfriend that your music reminds me a lot of like old science videos that I would watch in like middle school. Um,
Oh, sick.
yeah, like your like more ambient stuff, because like it would have like, I guess, would your teachers ever put on these like really old like tapes from the 80s about like some science thing with the people with the huge glasses, like the science
Totally, man.
glasses, and
But
like,
those are the best. I love
yeah,
those.
and like,
They don't make educational videos like they used to
dude,
back in the
they
day.
don't. And like the music was sick too, because like I guess it was on cassette, so it would just sound all like warbled too. And
So
so
good.
yeah, just like I guess your music reminded me of that for some reason, which is like interesting because I
Oh, thank
never
you.
think of that, and yeah, which I guess is a good thing too. You know,
I definitely like. I'm like, oh man, this sounds kind of old. I think it's cool to like. Yeah, I guess it was like kind of what I was going for, more of like old, like tape you would find from like
yeah,
the 70s or something.
yeah,
So yeah, no, thanks for the comparison.
yeah, for sure, dude. Um, so I guess I also wanted to ask too, what are your thoughts on like pygmy mammoths? I just learned that those are like, I guess really specific to the Channel Islands. Did you know that?
Yeah, yes. I quickly did a quick brief just like when I was like finding like elephant title names, I was just like reading about pygmy elephants, and I'm like, oh man, they're so cool. So
Dude, they're sick, right?
yeah, really cool,
Yeah.
majestic creatures.
Dude, honestly crazy. Like and like pygmy mammoths too, like they wandered from I guess like the mainland California or whatever and swam to like the Channel Islands across like from Ventura, and I guess they found like pygmy mammoth like I guess fossils.
It's
Crazy.
crazy, right?
Crazy. It's honestly
It's
insane.
insane.
Anyways, um so moving on I guess from elephants and stuff.
Oh no, man, we could talk about elephants all day. I
Honestly,
think if I could go back in time and figure out what career I wanted, I'd probably study elephants.
oh, that'd be so sick, dude.
Yeah.
You go to like a zoo and then you're not actually making music, you're just chilling with the elephants.
Yeah, I just live overseas and like take care like an elephant sanctuary.
Oh dude, that would
Just
be
like
sick.
study them. That'd be
Yeah,
sick.
that would be so cool actually. Yeah, that'd be so tight. So
Maybe one day. One day. It's
hey
like
dude,
you never know.
you're still young, dude. You could still make it happen if you wanted to.
Exactly.
So tell me about your involvement with Dell Lab. I know we talked about this like I guess briefly before the interview, but like how'd you get involved with Dell Lab and stuff?
Oh man. Yeah, like when I like first moved to Los Angeles at this point, like a while back. Yeah, I just knew them about from like the internet and like watching their secondhand sure shot documentary. And then, when I first came here, I was like, oh, first let me look for a job so I can like pay rent. And then like eventually yeah, but just wanted to connect more with the community here. And so I reached out to them and K Chung at the same time. And Double Lab was like the first one to get back to me.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hey man, you seem cool. Do you want to like, come in and like just scope the place out? We could like talk about what you want to do. And at the time it was like Jake Viator was like the broadcast manager.
Yeah.
And he's like the sound engineer now for like Stones Throw Records,
Oh
like their
wow, that's
studio.
crazy.
Yeah, he does a lot of mastering and like stuff there. He worked on like the Tim Hecker record.
Oh, really?
So sick.
Which one? The
Yeah.
newest one?
Yeah, I think the last two yeah, well the one that came out yeah, the one where he was working with the ensemble.
Dude, that's insane. Tim Hecker's a legend. That's
Yeah,
great.
he's great. Oh, it was like a story he told me. Like, I guess he did like well, he did a performance for Dub Lab like at the Ace Hotel,
Yeah.
and so but I think like we can like he connected Jake or whatever. I guess he liked what he did, and basically like Tim Hecker's like I like my stuff to be played really, really, really loud. And so Jake was like, "Yeah, man, it's cool." And he's like, "Make sure nobody, not the house manager or whatever, touches the soundboard. Just like leave it as it is. I wanted it to be ear piercing."
Just
He
as
was like,
loud as
"Cool."
possible.
He's like, "Oh, cool. I'll do that. How much you're paying?" And
Yeah,
so I remember Jake told me he like flew him to like Ohio for a show
dude, that's
just so
crazy.
no one could touch the board.
Dude, that's so wild. Oh my.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like Jake, he definitely took me under his wing. Like I just got involved, like mostly, just like editing like archives,
Yeah.
and just being there in the environment is like really cool.
Hmm.
And, like so many people go past, a lot of guests, a lot of people come on tour, and so yeah, just being involved, just like really opened up like I guess like my like palette of music
Yeah, for
because
sure.
like you it's like at the end of the day you're like talking to the DJs.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
that's
like,
how it
oh
goes.
man, you hear like during the show, like, oh, what song is that? And you're like, oh wow, and you're like secretly like type it into your computer, like, oh, I'm gonna check this out later. So
Yeah.
sick. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and so I've been involved with them since 2014, so it's been 6 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I like volunteer for a couple of years, mostly events and going in once a week to help out. And
Uh-huh.
I think like in 2017, I like reached back to him. I was like, hey man, if you need help with anything, let me know. And so he was like, hey man, would you want to take over the store? You know, just like run the shop. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
because I had like retail experience and like customer service, like
Yeah.
jobs in the past. And so he was like, oh, you do a good job. And so I took over that, and yeah, just like been part time since.
Dude, that's so
And
sick.
yeah, but it's cool. It's cool. Like just like being involved and seeing how I think a lot of people see it as like the hub of like Los Angeles, what music's going on.
Yeah, they definitely had play a huge part in that, I think.
Yeah, and so yeah, like yeah, it's just nice to just like just be behind the scenes and like see what goes on into like a lot of the events and like all the like cool projects. And you're like, wow, it's just
Yeah.
funny because it's like someone will be like, "Oh man, you guys did this thing," and I'm like, "Oh, that wasn't me. It was like someone else from Dell Lab," or we have our hands on a lot of stuff, so it's
Yeah.
cool.
So I guess did you have a show back in the day or was it mostly just like volunteering?
For Dell Lab or
Yeah, just for Dell Lab, I guess.
for Dell Lab, I've like guest hosted a few shows,
Yeah.
but never like had my own show. I think I was like just too afraid to ask Ale or Mark
Yeah.
or Owen at the time. I was like, "Hey, it's a cool if I have a show," but mostly because there's just so many,
Yeah.
and you want to come up with a cool concept, and so I
It's sometimes hard to come up with that concept.
Yeah. So, and then, Chris was like, "Hey, would it be cool if you co-hosted with me?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so, now I have a double app show after like being involved for 7 years.
Hell yeah. So I guess that's one of my next questions. How did Contact Wave come about? So I guess Chris just asked you to be a part of it or
Yeah, like he was like he was volunteering too at Dell Lab, doing a lot of stuff with like Mark. He did like Border Blasters, and he did like the Contact Wave like show series.
Hmm.
And so it's just funny because I don't think we ever met when he was involved with Dell Lab.
Yeah.
But like I met him like through shows, and so just like because he had a lot of my friends play, and so I would go and we would chat, and
Yeah.
so like and then I don't know how we got involved, but we actually had a just like through community through Dell Lab, we're just all friends, and so it's an excuse to hang out with each other once a month. We did
Yeah.
like a residency at Bernadette's,
Oh, that's
like a
sick.
bar downtown, like every first Fridays of the month,
Yeah.
and so we just like hang out, like have some drinks and like eat really cool food and just like share music. But it was cool. It was a so like our theme was called Clown Car,
Mhm.
and there'd be like six of us. I think it's originally six of us, but we would have like guests and like friends come over, and
Mhm.
then you have to basically spin a record, but you can't do back to back sets.
Yeah.
So the next person would play the next one to like to transition to your neck to the record you're playing. So it was a lot of fun, just like trying to figure out like what to play.
That's interesting. So what'd you guys call it again?
Clown Car.
Clown car? Oh, that's tight.
It was named after our bar trivia group,
Yeah.
just like many of us. But yeah, so I think yeah, because like the pandemic started, like it was like the week before pandemic, we did I did our residency, and we're like, oh man, hear about the pandemic, and we're like, yeah, man, and the following week it's like, hey, no more, that's it. I'm like, oh well, that was fun while it lasted,
Yeah.
and so I think Chris got busy with law school and like working at the firm, and so he was like, hey, would you be interested in like helping out or subbing in? I'm like, yeah, totally. So here we are. Now
Yeah.
we're
So
co-hosts.
okay, that's sick. So do you guys like co-host it like every show, or is it kind of just like one person takes over one show and then
I think originally it was supposed to, well, we were co-hosting and then, um, I thought he was gonna, or like was gonna be busy with like the law firm stuff.
yeah,
And,
oh yeah, okay.
and he was like, oh no, that's like, it's like, I think we like the dynamic duo thing going
Yeah.
on. So it's a lot of fun, like just being on the other side, as we said from like earlier today, just talking about just being on the other side, interviewing people.
Yeah, that's so sick. And you guys have had some like I guess some like really amazing guests on that show too. Yeah. Like
Yeah, it's great.
Contact
I
Wave is one
just,
of my favorites.
well, which one?
Contact Wave is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a fun show. I mean, Chris had just had guests over the years too, and I think like, when we were talking, we're like, oh man, we should like, go for it and just like ask for guests, like if they're interested, especially if when the pandemic hits,
Oh, for
I
sure.
feel
Yeah.
like everyone's like inside anyway, so it might
Yeah.
just be a good time to ask. And so we
That,
reached out and, the ones that we wanted, just like, we're like, yeah, it'd be cool. And so it was cool. I'm like, oh, wow.
yeah. Did you honestly get surprised at who says yes, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Actually, all of them, I'm surprised.
dude, yeah, it's honestly crazy. Like I'll just like hit up people like, oh dude, I wonder if these people would be interested, you know? And
Yeah.
I'll just like shoot an email and they're like, I'm down. And I'm like, didn't think be that easy. I didn't think you'd be down to be on my show, you know?
Yeah. And it's more like, oh man, oh, how am I going to prepare for this?
Yeah, exactly too, dude. And then it's just like, okay, now I actually have to start like reading about this person, like look for blog features, like all that stuff, you know?
Definitely.
But
It's
yeah,
fun.
that's funny. I also think it's funny too, because a lot of times I'll hit up people via like my Instagram, which just says like TBD Presents. It doesn't say anything with my name. And so people will just be like, yeah, I'm down. And they don't even know who I am. Like they don't even know that like it's just like me running it or like whatever, you know? So yeah.
Oh yeah,
Anyways,
I mean, I think it like, I think that's how you like reached out to me, was
yeah, I'm
like
pretty
through
sure that's how I
the
reached out to you.
TBD. You're like, hey, would you want to? I'm like, yeah, totally. Sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so it's just surprising. I don't know. It's fun. You get a kick out of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I knew about you because you tagged me on the off the Geographic North comp. I was like, oh wow, thank you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude, like I was saying, your ambient stuff, it stuck out to me on the comp. So,
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
yeah. So, I guess we're getting close to wrapping up the show here. Shout out some music you've currently been digging, some homies, some deep cuts,
Oh man.
whatever you
Well,
want to do.
let's see. Well, Boards of Canada is always like the go-to for sure.
Shouts out. I actually have a funny story about Boards of Canada. Sorry, I got to cut you off, but my
No
homie,
worries.
my homie Taliban at KCSB had a show about cats and something else. I think it was like communism and cats or something like that. Some crazy name. But like in the show description during programming, he would always write, you got to open up the show with cats meowing and Boards of Canada. So, anyways,
Like
that's
at the same time.
yeah, something like that. And
I
so
mean,
whenever I think of Boards of Canada, I always just think of Taliban's cat show. It's hilarious.
oh wow. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll give it a listen and then I'll just like think of cats meowing.
I'll have to shoot you some links, dude. So then, like, whenever you see
Definitely.
Boards of Canada, Taliban's like show will just be constantly ingrained
Oh
in.
wow.
Yeah. Anyways,
Crazy.
sorry to
Oh,
interrupt you.
no, no worries. Let's see. I guess like stuff I'm listening, I mean, you had her on guest, no translation.
Oh,
Like
shouts
her
out.
music's great. She also did like the stay indoors and swim covers. So thanks Emma for doing that. She like showed it to me. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So I was like excited to see
Yeah,
that.
amazing art.
Yeah, and the music's really good, really good. It's like inspiring. And then like Sophie Burke, her stuff is really good. Off that label Seal Records, I think the guy like Jogging House runs it.
Oh, dude, Jogging House runs that label? That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure that's his label. And like I just love the aesthetic. It's
Yeah.
clean, slick, and the
Oh,
music's
for
really
sure.
good.
I actually found
But
that label recently. But anyways, yeah, Sale, good
same
stuff.
here. Like over the
Yeah.
summer, I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, who's it? Yeah, so I like found like her release, and then I've been following KMRU since like the pandemic. So I'm like, whoa man, who's this? But I'm glad he's getting a lot of like reviews and just like a lot of shout outs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, it's like his music really inspiring. I actually listened to a Future Times record, like Lifted. Did you ever get into
Who
that
is it?
group? Lifted?
Maybe.
It's
It's
like
not ringing
with
a bell currently.
it's
Anyway.
with Max D, who's in like Beautiful Swimmers.
Oh, okay.
Um what's his name? The guy from Ponytail, Jeremy Hyman. And then I think it's like another dude, but it's just like a bunch of friends and then they just record. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's off the Future Times like Bandcamp. And
That's sick. I'll check that one out. That sounds tight.
what else have I listened to? I just got the Roscoe Mitchell and Mike Reed record off of Astral Spirits.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. That's
It's
sick.
really good.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm excited for it when it releases like next year. But then let's like listen to like the track they gave as a preview.
Yeah, the first couple or whatever.
Uh, Anna Roxanne, of course.
Oh,
That
shouts out, dude. Shouts out. Biggest ambient artist of the year, honestly.
I agree. That record's I like finally like I like knew it was coming out, and then I finally did a dive like a couple
Dude,
weeks. I'm like, whoa my
can't
gosh, this is
believe they
so
got
good.
signed to Cranky, dude. Literally insane. So sick.
Yeah. Like it just fits. I'm like, oh man, that was destiny.
Dude, went straight from leaving to Cranky, and I'm just like, how, dude?
So good. Yeah, so shouts out to Anna Roxanne. And then what else? Yeah, like, Pan African People's Orchestra is really good.
Hell yeah.
What else have I been listening to? AV Muse, a lot of stuff off of Leaving,
Oh, dude, AV
always
Moves
good.
slaps. Just found that recently.
And then
Everything on Leaving honestly slaps. I just found Bryn recently from that label.
oh
Um,
yeah, shouts out to Colin. He's my bud.
oh really? Hell yeah.
Yeah, we bonded from like I like it was like me and Electric Sound Bath. We did like a West Coast tour like
Okay.
years ago, and we just like he like I knew him from Inner Islands, but we never like knew each other or met. And so like I think like Ange like reached out like, hey, it would be cool to play in Portland. So he set up a show for us, and we connected. We like watched Surf Ninjas,
Oh hell yeah.
and we're like, oh man, you too? I'm like, yeah. And like we watched Surf Ninjas on VHS and a couple of Chuck Norris's Walker Texas Ranger that night. It was a lot of
Oh
fun.
hell yeah, dude. We love bonding over old movies on cassette.
Oh, totally. And like his old project, Antlered, if you ever heard, definitely like
I'll
I
have to
was
check it out.
yeah, I was definitely like a fan. Like I knew about Antler, and then like
Yeah.
before we were buds, and like give it a list. I'm like, my God, so good. And so and he's a really cool guy. So definitely check out his stuff. But yeah, Bryn's like latest release is phenomenal. It's really good.
Yeah, and then before that, their I guess self-released record is sick too. Um,
Oh yeah,
everything
definitely.
that Bryn does, I feel like is super cool. But anyways,
It's no, it's great. He like says to me it's like some new stuff he's been working or he's like collaborating with, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it just gets good. It just gets better and better.
yeah,
So shout out to him. And then one person I listen to a lot. Goes by Dark Twain from Richmond, Virginia.
Dark Twain. I'll have to check that.
Yeah,
Out. Sick.
have you heard of the producer Obliv?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he's like at the time it was like similar to like Knowledge and like he was on the same collective with Anu.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
and
crazy.
so they used to have a group called a collective called the Chocolate Milk Collective, and
Oh wow,
so
that's
it
wild.
was yeah, it's really it's a small world,
Yeah,
and
seriously.
yeah, and so he had like this project called Dark Twain, sorry,
That's
and
sick.
it's definitely more of like experimental, a lot of soundscapes. I was like watching like an interview with him. It said it was like his interpretation of fourth world music.
Oh damn.
I was like, oh wow, yeah. So I'm like, I but he was saying he was like he originally started as like a vaporwave project, but just kind of like dive deeper. And I'm like, oh, just so good. And he just put out something on like during that Bandcamp Friday. I like totally got it. I'm like, whatever release, man. Just like I'll take
Yeah,
it. I'll
whatever
listen.
you put out, dude, just let me know and I'll shell out whatever I can. Like
Yeah, totally.
that's sick. That's funny. You said he started out as vaporwave and then got more experimental.
Yeah, but totally check out his. He's more famous for his Obliv project.
Obliv. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, it's like SP404 guy,
Yeah.
and he's like a Richmond legend. Like the guy has a mural in Richmond of him.
Really?
Yeah, some people consider him like the Jay Dilla of like Richmond, Virginia.
Dude, that's actually pretty crazy. That's kind of sick.
Yeah, so definitely check it out.
I'll have to
Legend.
yeah, for real, legend. I'll have to check that out. That sounds sick. Um, so I think that just about does it for all of my questions. Did you have any last remarks you want to put into the airwaves and archives?
Just thanks so much for letting me, chat with you for a little bit. I feel like just especially this year, I've been the other way around, like asking people questions. So it was nice. Like, I mean, it's also a new thing for me to talk about myself.
Yeah.
So it's a fun experience for sure.
Hey, hell yeah. Well, I'm glad I could have you on the show, dude. Your music is super sick, and yeah, dude, it's honestly a pleasure to be able to have you here.
Yeah, likewise.
And
Thank you so
a fellow radio broadcaster, it's like, of course, you know.
definitely. No, I feel like we can even do another episode just talking about radio
Oh,
itself.
dude, we definitely could. Honestly, we might have to make that happen. So if anybody's listening, you want to hear us like blabber about radio, stay tuned. Might happen.
That'd be
So
cool.
where can people keep up with your projects and stuff?
Just through the Keone band. Well, I did the EP thing just because I saw my band camp was a little slim. I'm like, oh, man, I need to put more into this. So that's when like what kind of inspired the to self-release more. So I did that, and
I was actually going to ask you about that, but it slipped my mind earlier on. But anyways,
oh,
glad you brought it up. But
no worries. I felt like we've like just like went through so many different topics and zones, and like yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, just off there, the Geographic North compilation, Atlantic Rhythms, Bandcamp, Inner Islands,
do you have any socials
different
people can
content.
keep up with?
Oh yeah, like Instagram. I just just my real name, Chuck Zoho,
Heck yeah.
and then Twitter is like Keone with the underscore in between them.
There it is. So keep up with the Keone project, keep up with Chuck's work. So before I go, I actually have one more question, Chuck. You about ready for it?
I don't know. I guess I am prepared for it
It's kind of a doozy.
for sure.
And I ask everybody this question, so I just got to hit you with it. Anyways, I just got to make sure you're prepared.
Okay.
So, a rat is going to jump into your mouth. Do you want this rat to jump into your mouth head first or butt first, and why?
Am I like eating the rat, or is it like Ratatouille style where it's just like a cartoon rat that just like, or like Master Splinter just like jumps into my mouth by accident?
That's up to you to just make up the scenario.
I want to say it's like a Ratatouille style, or like Master Splinter just happens to like, well, like a tiny version of Master Splinter just like enters my mouth, and I was like, "Oh, hey man, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just trying to find some pizza or something." But yeah, no, I guess it was like head first would be cool.
Yeah,
Just like,
why?
oh hey, I've had some vegan pizza left in my like my back of my molars or something.
Dude, shouts out. I honestly love your answer. That was really good. Um,
Thanks, man.
I feel like people usually their first instinct is to kill the rat, which is kind of a bummer.
Oh no, I don't kill animals.
Are you vegan?
Yes.
Oh, are you actually? That's sick.
Yeah, no, how long has it been? Like 3 years vegetarian, 7 years vegan, then took a break vegetarian, and then vegan again. Yeah, I guess it's like 15 years since I haven't had meat.
Dude, that's crazy. That's actually really cool that you came up with that answer because I've even had some like vegetarian people or vegan people that are like, I mean, I guess just clamp down on that thing. And then I'm always just like, I've only had one good vegan answer that I got, and the person wasn't even vegan. How crazy is that? So
What
anyways,
was their answer?
their answer was, I want that thing to jump in butt first so I can pet its head, calm it down, and then it can be a little ratatouille homie that I put under my hat and can help me cook dinner at night.
Wow. I mean, who doesn't want that? Anyone can cook, right?
Exactly, right? So,
Best Pixar movie, in my opinion.
oh, for sure. Honestly, yeah, one of the best ones. Anyways, I think that's about all we have for today. So thanks for tuning in to TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio out of Tijuana every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. This has been Chuck with their project Keone. They did a performance for us. And yeah, thanks again for coming, Chuck. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you.